Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. So today I want to talk to you about 5 traits of high-impact team leaders. And I ain't talking about like the supervisor, or some people are in a position called a team leader. Could absolutely be those folks. But what I'm really talking about is anybody leading a team of people. I'm going to share some background from my days of leading teams. I've led tons and tons of teams of people through process improvement, organizational change, cultural transformation, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to teach you the traits shortly, but to start with, just going to open up and share some thoughts with you and give you some background. But as a team leader, it's not about me, but it absolutely begins with me. That's what I have to know. If you want to lead teams, that's what you have to know. It's not about me, but it starts with me. So for a moment, imagine that you've been designated to lead a small cross-functional team of 8 to 10 people for 1 week. That's all you got. You're being measured totally on your ability to inspire the team to get measurable and meaningful results. No big deal, right? That's what team leadership is all about. But there's something you need to know about this team and this situation. You do not know any of these team members. Most of them don't know each other. Most of them do not like you. Some don't like each other. They have to be there. But most don't want to be there. Some are angry because they are there. They all report to different leaders, but none of their leaders are on the team. You have no formal authority, but you have complete responsibility. Some of them have worked at the organization for 20 years or more. It's your first day on the job. That's your team that I just described in this scenario. I'm painting you a picture. Are you up for that challenge? That will definitely be a challenging team to lead. Before you decide, there's a little more you need to know about this cross-functional team and your mission as their team leader. They are expected to make changes to improve a process, but they don't have to make changes. They're expected to, but they don't have to. Most importantly, most of them like things the way they are. Only a few, if any, are actually familiar with the process. Someone else has ownership of the process and will be affected by the changes. Some of the team members will only be given a few minutes' notice that they will be on the team. They don't even know in advance. Last minute notice, hey, you're on the team. So they will not have the opportunity to plan to be away from their regular jobs. This doesn't usually make them very happy to participate, but they have to because the boss says, you're on a team this week. I forgot to tell you last week. So you need to run over to so-and-so room and join up with those folks. That's about much notice as some of your team members are going to get. So this is your team. Are you ready for the challenge? Can you inspire this team? If so, how will you inspire them? How will you get them to follow you? Remember, it's your first day on the job. You got a week. How much influence will you have with them? You also have to train them on process improvement techniques because that's what you're there for. And most of these folks never had any of that kind of training. They don't know how to do what's being asked of them. They've never done it before, and you're the one asking them to do it, and they don't know you. So I've had the privilege of leading more than 100 teams like the one I just described to you. Between 2005 and 2012, I logged over 11,000 hours leading teams, just like the one I just described. That's why it was so easy for me to describe it. I know all about those kind of teams. I know all about showing up on day one. They don't know me. I don't know them. My first day on the job, some of them been there 10, 20, 30 years on the job. All the stuff I just described to you. My mission is always, when I lead a team like that, to unleash the team's potential by taking the complex and making it simple. And I'm going to share some actual results from one of the teams that I led. And how did they achieve such amazing results? These results I'm about to give you. And again, these results come from me leading a team of, just like I described a minute ago, for 5 days. That team, I painted you that picture of a minute ago. But I'll tell you a little later how we achieved the results. Right now, I want to still continue to paint this picture. And I need to cover some things. These results come from a great team, just like the one I described already. And that should elevate your curiosity, because you got to remember that team I described a minute ago. And now you got to imagine that team with me, their brand new leader that they don't know and they don't report to, got these kind of results I'm about to tell you about. And as I tell you this, no employees in this work area were terminated. But this was a 5-day cross-functional team event in a fabrication and assembly department. Actually, they were manufacturing mufflers, the kind you used to see and maybe still see sometimes on the side of the big rigs, the 18-wheelers on the highway. You see them big mufflers right on the side of the cab, one on each side. And that's what they were making in this area. So during these 5 days, they had a 30% reduction in labor. Basically went from 3 shifts with 30 operators to 3 shifts with 21 operators. Like I said, we didn't terminate anybody. Those folks had to move to different departments. It was a big facility, so there's plenty of space for them. You don't terminate folks when you make improvements, or people quit helping you make improvements. Had a 52% reduction in floor space. Went from 4,834 square foot required in that department to 2,300 square foot. Had a 14% increase in output per person per hour. 75% reduction in work in process, meaning WIP, some people call it. Went from 161 pieces of mufflers basically in process, some stage of process, to operate the line, down to 40 pieces to operate the line. Had a 52% lead time reduction. When we first started on the Monday, you put a first part in that process, it took it 30 minutes to get out the other end, because I had to flow through all that existing material, get in line, so to speak. Went from 30 minutes to 14 minutes in those 5 days, lead time. Had a $51,000 annualized scrap reduction. And what did all this actually mean on the bottom line? $750,000 annualized cost reduction. Every year that department operated like that, there was $750,000 saved each year in cost reduction. Did that with a team like I described at the beginning. And that was my team. And I'll tell you something else. That was the very first team like that I ever led in a manufacturing plant. I was implementing lean manufacturing, and I had never done it before. And the people in this facility had never done it before. So everything I share with you, and I got a book about this called Blue Collar Kaizen, Leading Lean and Lean Teams, where I break down really in deep detail what I'm doing with you now. I have a video course on it. bluecollarleadershipacademy.com, 7.5-hour video course. We got a paperback book, audio book, ebook. So you can check that out if this interests you. But I thrive with these types of teams and want to give you some tested and proven tips on how I have achieved success. Every single team I led was like that, not because I'm special, but because the principles that I lead with and apply internally are highly effective, allow you to make a high impact. As I started out earlier, it's not about me, but it begins with me, meaning I got to develop myself before I can develop my team. I got to get results with me, meaning personal development, personal growth, before I can help others get development and build trust really quick. But when you're the team leader, you are not responsible for the team. However, you are responsible to the team and for the results of the team. As a leader, you are either making it happen, allowing it to happen, or preventing it from happening. You think of the acronym MAP, M-A-P. I was teaching this, and Mike Childs, I had him on my podcast a while back in an interview, and when he heard me teaching that, he says, "I love acronyms, man," and that's like MAP. As a leader, you're going to be on the map. You're either making it happen, allowing it to happen, or preventing it from happening. So I appreciate Mike sharing that with me, and I steal that from him because it makes a lot of sense. Easy way to remember that. I was already saying it that way. I just hadn't put the map part to it. But if you're not doing one of those things, making it happen, allowing it to happen, preventing it from happening, if you're not doing one of those things, you're not the team leader. Someone else is. Because somebody is doing one of those three things, or a combination of all of those three things. So I led a 3-year facility-wide lean transformation from batch and queue production. That's where you make a pile, move a pile, operate, work on that pile, put it on a pallet, put it on a rack somewhere, later go back and get it, put it in the next machine, just building piles. That's batch and queue. That's what a lot of people still do. Highly wasteful process. That's why we got those results I was telling you about. So we went from that to single piece continuous flow lean production, which means you try to go from machine to machine with the least amount of waste, least amount of transport, least amount of whip working process, all that stuff. Lots of stuff. I ain't here to teach you all the lean stuff about it. But that's just what it is. You may or may not know about that. Lean applies everywhere in every industry. But we went during those 3 years, we went from minus 3% gross profit margin to plus 35% gross profit margin. It's a big deal. When we started, there was no more available room in our 150,000 square foot facility. It was packed full. Through our improvements, we freed up over 70,000 square feet of space. I mean, emptied it out. And we were making equal to or more than we were before. So what did we do with all of that available space? We added 4 new departments that required 50 new team members. We had to hire. Normally, you would have to hire 50 new team members to operate all the equipment. Guess what? We didn't have to hire one person, although we added 50 new jobs, because we had also improved processes and had more than 50 associates available to fill positions. Because, see, this didn't happen all at once. We might have added 4 jobs or 5, and then we had 5 people available. And then later we added 6 or 7 jobs, and we had 6 or 7 people available. It didn't happen all at once. It happened over 3 years. And we hadn't terminated them. Remember that example I gave you a minute ago? We freed up 9 people out of that one department during 1 week. And those people could have sat in the break room. We wouldn't have lost any money, because before they were in the process already as part of the cost. But we had plenty to do, because those people working a lot of overtime and all that stuff. So more than enough places for them to go work and be valued and be productive. But we hadn't terminated anybody, so we were able to fill all these positions. That's how that gross profit margin increased so significantly. As we improved slowly, we'd bring in new equipment and staff staff it with our freed up associates. Again, didn't happen overnight, happened over a 3-year period. But that was still super fast, what I'm describing to you. We went from being considered for a shutdown, our plant, while trying to survive, to become a model for the entire multi-billion-dollar organization, global organization, which was made up of more than 70 facilities worldwide. At the time, none of those facilities were lean, meaning had applied lean principles, lean manufacturing principles. But they were all expected to be making the transformation. Our team did it first, and I got to lead it. When we started, very few of the 200 plus associates we had in our facility had any formal lean or process improvement experience. Most were not happy about changing. They were happy with things the way they were. They were comfortable. But you got to know this, all of our growth happens outside of our comfort zone. When we started, we had an untrained team and an untrained lean leader. That would be me. I had never formally led a lean transformation, nor had I received any formal lean training. I did have 8 years of prior experience working in an environment where lean was not implemented as it should be with the people, but rather it was done to the people. If you know anything about lean, you do it with the people, not to the people. In other words, we were not involved in the change. We were expected to live with the changes made by the engineering teams sent from corporate headquarters from a completely different state, just telling us what to do, but not involving us. So when it came time to transform our plant, I was fired up. I accepted the challenge and the responsibility of leading our lean initiative and the many challenging teams without formal authority over any of the 200 team members in our facility. None of them reported to me. But I was responsible for leading the entire transformation. I had to get buy-in. I had to get people to follow me. Later, I resigned and did this as a consultant. But this story I'm telling you is when I very first began, and I was an employee in one manufacturing facility. But I instantly became the official change agent of the entire plant. I wasn't just along for the ride. I was driving. I've shared some of our successes in the last few minutes. Here are some of the actual results from the entire transformation, the entire 3-year transformation. This is some of the results we got. And again, these are amazing results, going from traditional batch and queue, build a pile, move a pile, or build a pile, move a pile, store a pile, retrieve a pile, work on a pile. Anywhere that's happening, where there's a batch, meaning a group of stuff. A lot of people do it in administrative work. They do it in construction. They do it in manufacturing, and they think it's just normal. They got tons and tons and tons of profit being thrown out the window because it's wasted cost. So here's just some of the highlights from that entire 3-year event in that one facility. We had over 50 cross-functional team events like the one I described to you earlier. I led those. Before we got started, all 150,000 square foot of our facility was utilized. We also had a 30,000 square foot offsite warehouse about 10 miles across town to store finished goods because we didn't have anywhere inside of our facility anymore. We were busting at the seams. But after we did all that lean improvement with all these 50 plus teams over the 3-year period, we freed up 70,000 square feet of space. We added those new departments I told you about. We brought the 30,000 square foot warehouse contents back inside of our facilities. Quit wasting time traveling across town and paying for that building for storage of stuff we didn't need or didn't need to be storing yet. So we had a 47% reduction in required floor space. More than 90% reduction in work in process within the production lines. Approximately 30% of the employees were freed up to fill new jobs. I told you earlier, added 4 new departments with approximately 50 new jobs, but didn't have to hire anybody. That's why. 85% reduction in employee turnover. People started liking working there. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to stay. Their jobs got better, not worse. 40% increase in sales from 55 million to 77 million. And a year after I left, they reached 100 million. 200% increase in annual cost reductions. We went from reducing costs annually by $1 million to $3 million. Improved from minus 3% gross profit margin to plus 35% gross profit margin, which I shared with you earlier. During the facility-wide lean transformation, I led these cross-functional teams internally as a lean manager for basically 3 years. As we delivered results, I was asked to travel nationally and internationally to assist our other corporate locations with their lean initiatives. We became like the tip of the spear. And this is when I discovered that teams like the ones I described at the beginning of this episode exist, and they are very common. Remember I told you all those crazy stuff? Remember when I said imagine this at the beginning? Those kind of teams are common. Go put one together. You'll find out. They are the norm in poorly led traditional organizations. But I was having fun. I loved it. I love the challenge of leading that kind of team without any formal authority. And I loved all of the teams. We made a lot of great things happen along the way. Then I decided I want to make a bigger impact across multiple organizations. So I chose to start my own lean consultant company in 2008. And as a lean manufacturing consultant for the next 4 years, I would travel from one facility to the next, booked every week, often working with a team like the one I described earlier, most often working with that kind of team. I did this over and over and over throughout those years. These teams taught me much more than I could ever learn from a book, although I've been reading books every day for almost 18 years now. But I'm grateful for each one of those teams. We accomplished some amazing things together. The team we started with on Monday each week was never the same team that left the room on Friday each week. Not only had a transformation of the process taken place, but also a transformation of the team members had taken place. So now it's time to talk about how to lead with influence, moral authority, and inspire a team to take action, transform, and improve their processes, while simultaneously improving themselves. So here we go. Let's dive into the 5 traits of high-impact team leaders. Apply these traits, and you'll achieve success when leading teams of any type for any reason. Any kind of team. You don't have to be doing lean like I was doing. These are principles. Number 1, focus on your own personal leadership development. If I can't lead myself well, why should anyone else follow me? They shouldn't, I'm telling you. There's only one reason that they will, and I can tell you this for sure. The only time someone will follow a poor leader is when they have to, when they don't have options or they don't want to exercise those options. The best team leaders have followers that want to follow them. And I remember I talk about it quite often about a research study I read about somewhere. I think it was something to do with John Maxwell always talking about it. It was a research study of 17,000 people that found the output of those who are following leaders because they wanted to was 40% higher than those following leaders because they had to. And this study reflects that a leader's ability to lead, influence is another word for lead. Remember, if you follow me enough, you understand leadership is influence. But the study reflects that a leader's ability to lead others could be costing the team or organization up to 40% in lost productivity. Imagine that. Imagine if you got people in your organization and they're only following the boss because they have to, not because they want to. You could assume, based on that study, those people are 40% less productive. You got 3 people on the team, 40% across 3 people. That's the equivalent. If they wanted to follow the leader instead, you would basically have the output of 1.2 more people. So just having a leader that they'd want to follow would be like adding another person to the team. Without a doubt, the most important trait is to study, learn, and apply leadership principles. That's why it's number 1. Continuously, daily. You have to be ready when you show up. Leadership is not about having a position of authority and making people follow you. It's about developing moral authority so people want to follow you. You must be confident in who you are, but you also have to know who and what you're not. You will not fool a team very long, not one of those kind of teams. They can see in the dark when it comes to authenticity and who you are and who you're not. If you got ego and pride, or you humble and vulnerable, you lead with humility. But you'll be accepted as the leader for who they think you are. But you will be rejected as the leader for who you really are. If they think you awesome, they're going to accept you. If you're not awesome, they're going to reject you. And I know this, when it comes to leading teams, if you fake it, you ain't going to make it. And when I speak about leadership, as I mentioned previously, I use the definition that's been the standard by leadership guru, whatever you want to call him, John C. Maxwell. He says this right here: leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Everything rises and falls on leadership, he says. That's the end of his quote there. But the best team leaders do not lead with formal authority. Even if they have it, they don't use it. They don't leverage it. They set it aside. Highly effective, high-impact team leaders lead with moral authority, influence, not position. And if you want to check out, I got a couple of good resources for that if that interests you. Check out my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision. Unleash Your Team's Potential is the subtitle. And then check out my book, 10 Values of High-Impact Leaders. If you're a formal authority leader or aspiring to be, check those out. The Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision book. There's also a 7.5-hour video course at bluecollarleadershipacademy.com. So got some resources for you. But there are 2 research studies from Harvard and Stanford that revealed 87% of our influence comes from our character, who we are, and 13% of our results come from our competency, what we know. So use this as a general guideline to develop yourself, and you can't go wrong. That means you should invest nearly 85 to 90% of your time, money, and energy in character development, with only 10 to 15% of your time being invested on competency. Unfortunately, most leaders have that principle reversed. Most people focus on competency. Few people focus on character development at all. So this trait is the foundation of all the other traits that I'm going to share with you. Shared one. I got 4 more to go, but it's taken me so long to get through the kind of intro. I'm going to split this into a 2-part podcast series. So come back next week, or just if the episode's already available, just go to the next episode and we'll go through 2, 3, 4, and 5, these remaining traits of high impact team leaders. But I got a book about influence, also a different book, my very first book, called Defining Influence. Subtitle, Increasing Your Influence Increases Your Option. You really want to take a deep dive into all the stuff about leadership and read a lot about my personal stories and my journey and all that sort of stuff, how I got from frontline entry-level factory worker to doing what I'm doing now. But I wrote that book in 2014, so it's 12 years ago from the time I'm recording this podcast. So I've done a whole lot since then, but that book was my first book, and I talk about all, my journey. But I teach tons and tons of fundamentals relative to leading yourself and others, and how to build trust, and all the principles, components related to trust, and lots of stuff on personal development and leadership development. So I'm going to wrap this episode up for today. We'll just call this one part 1, and come back with me next week. We'll get into part 2, and we'll get through the 4 remaining traits that's part of this little 2-part series. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen, or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.